And we're on.
All right. So is the theme song playing now, or
No.
will you edit it before?
It'll be a 5-second intro, and then it'll go in right into this.
Very good. You're on it. Nice.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Dan Flores,
Hi,
man.
y'all.
Yeah, that's Dan.
How you guys doing?
Good. You don't have to look at the camera.
All right. I don't know. All right.
I've never done this before.
Yeah, I know. All right. Well,
You want to get into drinking first, or you want to
first
do
things
intros?
first. Yeah.
Drinks?
I think we should
All
probably
right.
pour.
Did you even open it up?
I took the plastic cover off, but I left the
Okay.
paper cover here. So we have Wright and Brown bourbon whiskey.
Yeah.
It's distilled out of Oakland, but the barley is grown in Scotia.
Really?
Yeah. This is
How'd you find that?
we sell it at the social club,
Okay.
Humboldt Bay Social Club.
Yeah.
Humboldt
out-
Bay-
no, you
Humboldt
can look
Bay-
at the camera.
Humboldt Bay Social Club.
No
where,
one's gonna respond though.
Right. Where I work part-time. I bartend over there.
Mm-hmm.
And we sell this. Over there, you can get this for $12 a pour.
Oh, a pour.
A pour.
I thought you were about to say a bottle, and I was like, that
No.
is a deal. Okay.
$12 a pour over there. It's a little expensive, but
Yeah. Yeah, this podcast is being hosted at North Coast Real Estate in downtown Arcata, but we
Yes.
are after hours.
we're after
Okay,
hours.
the door's locked. No one's coming in.
Yeah. And,
We're good.
we can actually see someone we know walking by out right now.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
we get the
hot.
glare in. I want to start shooting at night, so there's no glare up on the wall. But, okay. here we
Cheers.
go. Cheers, man. That's some bourbon.
It's good stuff. Like my favorite part of it is it's out of Oakland. They have like the cranes right here from Oakland Harbor.
Oh, cool. Yeah. So, all right, Dan, I know you're from originally, let me guess, Santa Rosa, right?
That was where I was before I moved up here.
Where were you born?
I was born and raised in Napa.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I pretty much, which is 45 minutes from Santa Rosa.
Yeah, it's close.
It's kind of raised within the same 45-minute radius down there between Napa, American Canyon, Vallejo, Santa Rosa.
Moved around a bunch as a kid?
Moved around,
Yeah.
but it was all in that small radius, you know, Napa County.
Where'd you go to high school?
I went to 4 different high schools, actually. I was at Vintage High School, which is in North Napa for my freshman year. I was living in American Canyon, but there was no high school there, so you had to take the bus for 30 minutes every morning. But my sophomore year, they opened up American Canyon High School, and so I was in the first class. They only had freshmen and sophomores that year, and so I was there for a few months, and my mom decided we were going to move to Napa because my uncle had bought a house, and there was it was a duplex, so he lived in the sub unit, which it was on a hill, so it wasn't like a basement necessarily. It was just like around the back. It was cool. And then we were on the top unit. And so backing up, I was at American Canyon High School for sophomore year just for a few months, and then went to Napa High. And I was there from the rest of my sophomore year, junior, and senior year.
Yeah, what were you like in high school? Were you kind of weird dude?
Yeah, I was.
Paint your fingernails black?
No, but if I did, it would fit right in
Yeah.
with the rest of my style. My
Yeah.
freshman year, I had got into death metal.
Yeah.
And I started out with just typical I got into Metallica, which was pretty much the gateway drug
classics. Yeah.
into my music taste that is even active till today, up to current present day.
Drink some more.
Yeah.
Oh, loosen your lips a little bit.
I'm tense. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all right.
But yeah, so freshman year, you'd find me wearing cutoff shorts. These were shorts I wore in 8th grade, or pants I wore in 8th grade that I turned to cutoff shorts for high school. And I would cut all my sleeves off of all my shirts, and I
Yeah.
wore mostly band t-shirts.
Right on.
You'd black bandana every day to school. With a chain necklace. I had a spike bracelet, a stud bracelet, and an armband I wore on one arm, and then another stud bracelet I wore on my right every day, no fail. 2 chains on my left side, 2 chains on my right. and Converse.
Yeah.
Chuck Taylor Converse with a high top Chucks, and then high tube socks
Yeah.
every day. The
Yeah.
only thing that changed with my outfit was the cut off t-shirt I was wearing.
Yeah. What's important though is consistency.
Yeah,
You know, at least you were consistent.
that was my thing, and like, you know, everybody knew, like, you know, that was my style, and like people in my friend group, like, I was being raised in church, and so, you know, I wore that crap to church, and like you had, you know, picture that in church, and a lot of people are just like, oh, we got a Satan worshiper here, you know, even though 80% of the bands I were into at the time were Christian metal
Yeah.
or hardcore, which I was surprised at the time to find existed. Cheers.
Yeah, right.
And so I looked like the
Picturesque.
the black cloud in the group, like, you know, just with all these Christian kids, you know, wearing normal clothes, and, you know, I love them as much as they love me, though, and I was just like the black sheep a little bit, you know, but it didn't change who I was, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I kind of evolved, like, that style kind of evolved when I went, that style evolved later, junior year. I like
Grew out of it a little.
grew out of it a little bit, you know, because at that point I had starting to think about, you know, what am I doing after high school, college?
Yeah.
You know, what am I doing? I'm a junior still, and I'm still wearing chains to school and all this stuff, you know. Not that that stuff should define anyone's future, you know.
Right.
Um,
But the outside stigmas.
Yeah, exactly. And so it just got me thinking. And that year, the high school I was going to in my junior year, Napa High, was offering a firefighter. It was called an ROP program, which was, I can't even remember what that stood for, but it was essentially like the same league as wood shop, metal shop, you know, auto shop, you know, just these classes that are meant to prepare you in advance for a trade or career you're going into, you know. So just imagine, like, you had wood shop, metal shop, and then the fire class. So I checked that out.
Interesting.
And, you know, at the time I was thinking, like, oh, maybe I'll be a chef. I like to cook. Maybe I'll be a mechanic, you know, like my dad was, who's not around and never was. But, you know, just, I always like to work with my hands and stuff, like a little tinkering around. But I checked out the fire class, and the first homework assignment was we got a permission slip that we had to sign and have our parents sign, and then we're supposed to take it to the Napa Fire Department. And the homework assignment was to do a ride-along, which, you know, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. You just spend the day at the firehouse and just watch what goes on, you know. And
just a witness.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, you know, that sounds cool. So I was actually the only kid in the whole class who actually did it. And the first...
Showed some initiative.
Yeah, and within the first hour, we got a 911 call, and that was my first time hearing, like, the tones go off, the bell ring, the siren go, and all right, it's game time, you know. Everybody gets into the engine pulls out, engineer turns on the lights, turns on the siren, and we, you know, go. And it was, I still remember that, like, moment of just, you know, driving code 3, which means lights and sirens to an emergency, and just remembering thinking that thought of, I think this is what I want to do, you know? Like, the adrenaline was pouring through me like it never had before, and, you know, I had already been talking to the guys, you know, and I had already, you know, had a general knowledge of what the firefighting was all about. And it was the only thing up to that point that appealed to me, to the point of, like, I think this is what I want to do after high school, you know? So I continued that class, and that class was good, you know, but through the ride along, I met a few people with the city department, and there, man, I am sweating.
Yeah, you were sweating. You want to try and open that door?
Yeah.
Yeah, it might let in some noise, but
The sounds of Arcata. Oh man, that's nice.
a little better.
Yeah, we'll see.
Okay.
Alrighty. Sorry. So yeah, that I met someone through the department who was head of what's called the Fire Explorer program, which is imagine Boy Scouts, but just young boy. Well, it wasn't just boys actually, young boys and girls who were interested in being a firefighter. It was a program that the fire department had, kind of like the Boy Scouts, where you meet once a week and do training. You learn. You do what's called hose evolutions, where they charge the hoses like with high pressure, and you have a bunch of 16 through 20-year-olds learning how to do it. Just it's for kids who think they want to get into the fire service. It's just the best program ever, because
is that offered to every high school? It wasn't at my high school. I know
that was the only high school I ever knew that had it, and I don't think it even lasted after the year I graduated.
Curious.
Yeah, it was taught by, because I was in the two programs. I was in the high school program and the after school Explorer program, which was, but so with the after school, or the city program, they let you do ride-alongs and stuff too. But the thing is, that was very hands-on. Like once they felt that you'd been trained enough on the training ground, they would let you participate in real emergency scenarios. Like once I had gone, and you get your own gear issued. Like it's hand-me-down gear, like from all the paid firefighters with the department. They would, once they got new gear, they would take their old gear and give it to the explorers. It was pretty sweet. As an explorer, as far as like the liability risk, you weren't allowed to you couldn't go into a fire. You couldn't go into a toxic atmosphere. And at the captain's discretion, he would decide what you couldn't do. But his discretion was based on his knowledge of your training. So if you were one of those kids who would just go once a week and only go to your weekly training, probably be a little less confident in you. But if you showed up on your off time, on your days off from school, and came to the firehouse and got familiar with the engines, got familiar with the equipment, ask questions, go the extra mile, that's when they're like, oh, hey, Dan, do you want to take this person's blood pressure? Oh, or, just, pull this hose line for this fire we're dealing with.
Yeah, start incorporating you more.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And again, they could only let you go so far as to what was safe and not safe. But
hey, you want to give this guy an IV?
Yeah, exactly.
And so after high school, you just continued in that Explorer program, or?
Yeah, after high school, the Explorer program was, I think it was age 16 to 20 is the age range that they provided for. And I went until I was late 19 years old. Actually, no, I was 20. I went until I was 20. And at that point, I had moved to Santa Rosa because I was actually kicked out of my house. Me and my mom, single mom, we didn't get along at the time. She's one of my best friends now, but I had moved to Santa Rosa, but I was still driving all the way to Napa for, trainings and ride-alongs and stuff.
Oh man, let's see if I can keep up with you.
All right.
Yeah, it's a little bit stronger than that peanut butter stuff I had earlier.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, I've had that peanut butter stuff. And about the peanut butter stuff, if you watch the previous episode, it's dangerous.
Screwball.
Yeah, screwballs, and we made White Russians with it. One day, once the bar started stocking it, we made White Russians, and I don't remember much. All I remember, I was in pure agony the next day.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the story. I stayed in the program till I was 20, and then I had an event in my life that kind of took me down the wrong path. Maybe not the wrong path, just a path that didn't agree with the fire service at the time. A path that just kind of I deviated from my plan.
Happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think I let that be a really big blow to me because I had found my dream. I had been pursuing it, and I put so much into it. Like I became a fire explorer captain. Like I was promoted. I got to train other kids. As a kid, I was training other kids. It was great, and I had all kinds of direction. I was in college programs to become a firefighter.
You're motivated.
Knocking out all the requirements to get a paid job. I got my EMT license and everything, and that was the only thing I'd ever pursued, and I put my identity into it. And once I had a speed bump and a mess up and found out like, okay, like this plan is probably going to take a little longer than you'd like to. I just let that absolutely destroy me. And, it taught me that, your identity is not
what your job is.
What your job is.
Yeah.
And, that was a lesson learned, and I know it now, and I'm glad I did. It was a tough time, but I decided to, pick myself up and try. I knew I could go back to the fire service, and I eventually would and am, but I decided to try something new. I ended up applying for a job at a zoo, and completely different game.
Yeah. That's cool.
But
unless monkeys set themselves on fire, then you're well prepared.
Right. Human and monkey costumes.
Yeah.
But I was just a dishwasher at the zoo for like 3 months. But every day I'd walk down and see like the giraffes and the rhinos, and they had all kinds of animals, monkeys.
Yeah, it's a zoo.
Yeah, you get it.
It's a zoo.
It was actually, if you call it a zoo to the wrong person, like management at
was it a wildlife habitat?
It was an African wildlife preserve.
An African wildlife preserve.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. But it was 400 acres, and unlike your normal zoo, like the buffalo and the wildebeest and the antelope were living in 100-acre enclosures.
Yeah.
And they would roam free in like multiple species, and
so could you do like safari rides through the park?
It's called Safari West.
Yeah.
You should check it out. Santa Rosa, California, up Mark West Springs Road.
It's just a really big zoo, folks.
It's a really big zoo. But yeah, it's like $100 for a tour to go into the safari. There's like these big, they call them Dodge Power Wagons. They're like World War II converted giant Jeep things that they've converted into like passenger vehicles for guests to pay for and ride in. It's like an hour. It's a 3-hour tour. Half of it's walking through like the monkeys and the bird area, but then you get on the Dodge Power Wagon for an hour and a half, and you ride through and get face to face with giraffes and get up close with rhinos and different kinds of big animals and stuff.
Cool.
So
you like working there?
Yeah, I expressed my interest to the animal manager, who I guess they needed people at the time. And normally a job like that, you need like a zoology degree. You need, internships and all kinds of other things, factors that play into getting a zookeeper job. But I was already an employee of Safari West. And so I went up to the animal director or animal manager, and I was like, hey, I think I heard you guys need someone, and I'd really love to do it. Like, I'll just work my ass off. I'll shovel shit if you need me to, and I'd like to learn about animals. And she's like, okay. So I got pulled into the animal department, And you know, I shoveled shit mostly until like when you're a new person and don't have a relationship with animals, you know, you're pretty much on duty.
Yeah.
But you know, eventually
How long did you do that?
that was like just about 2 years.
Mm.
You know, I worked in the maintenance department later on, but majority of my time there was spent in the animal department. And you know, I got to work with like giraffes a little bit. I got to train a rhinoceros. You know, my
Teach
favorite.
them how to sit?
Huh?
Teach them how to sit?
I never got there. I didn't work with doing the trainings for too long. They actually had you know, like you'd be surprised, like in animals, like can like your persona and your demeanor and like the way you hold yourself. Like I've always kind of walked around like a little uptight,
They can feel that.
They can feel it,
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
And through working with animals, I kind of, you know, learned that. And so, how I was walking into an animal enclosure on day one looked a lot different than how I was walking in on, you know, a year later.
Yeah.
But even then, you know, there's some things you can't change. So, you know, we had
Like your face?
yeah, like my, you know, my face. We had this girl come in to be like the primary rhino trainer. At least, like each rhino kind of like she got along, or the rhinos kind of got along with her a certain way because she was smaller, more petite, and I still don't, you know. She knew them way better than me. It's crazy that, you know, I talk about an animal like they're like they have a personality, but they really do have a personality. And I think that was just such a, like, for where I was in my depressed, like I've messed up state at the time. Working with these animals really helped me get out of that, you know.
Yeah.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah, it's cool. So definitely a learning experience.
Mm-hmm.
You got to mature quite a bit.
Yeah.
And then so you didn't want to pursue that anymore? You got out of that?
Yeah, so once, after a while, you know, there were a few, you know, I was thinking about how I was going to do this podcast, like, for the last 24 hours.
Yeah, what do you want to say? What are you trying to hide?
My goal was to not trash talk anybody.
Oh, yeah.
And
no, it's funner that way.
Yeah, but, like, what I can say, vaguely, is that
the worst thing you can do is try and talk about something, but not actually say what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
So if you're going to say it, say it.
All right. So the owner of this zoo.
This piece of shit.
The owner of this zoo was a married couple.
Okay.
The wife, Nancy, total sweetheart. The husband.
Opposite.
I'm not going to say his name, but the husband, the male owner of the zoo, is one of the worst human beings I've ever had to work with.
Dang.
No,
So some
one of the
conflict?
most difficult human beings I've ever had to work with.
Yeah.
I should say. And that trickled down through management. So, you know, this, you know, mighty ruler is, you know, at the top, you know, just dictating his wants and needs.
His leadership is going to influence the whole chain.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was very, you know, a very negative influence that trickled down through the management.
Yeah.
And, you know,
you were stuck in the shit below.
I loved my boss in that department. And, you know, we're friends to this day. But, you know, on the day-to-day, you know, with, you know, staffing being low because and just workloads being high, stress levels being high, you know, it just on the day-to-day, the animal manager boss I had would just get very, you know, tense and stressed, and it eventually wore me out. And so that kind of pushed me out of the animal department. Myself, like I could have stayed, but I just wanted to work in a different department. I'd rather be building fences at that point. So I did. The maintenance crew had started building some fences, so I asked the maintenance manager, "Hey, could you use me?"
Yeah.
And so I was in the maintenance department for a few more months, and then that's when I came to Humboldt.
So how'd you find this place up here?
So, one second. I met a girl who was an intern at the zoo, and I'm sure some of the people watching this might know her, but I'll leave her unnamed. She had been just enrolled in HSU, and she is an intern at the zoo, was finishing her internship up to come to HSU, and we started dating as she was doing that. And so I came up here to visit her, and through this time that I was working at the zoo, I knew I wanted to eventually move away from the area. Like at one point I wanted to move to Utah. I went to Utah and I loved it, but I was like, okay, well, I think 14 hours is a little far for me. But I came up here, and it's only 4 hours away from everywhere I've been and grown up, And I think that's, as I like to say, it's close enough to be close, but far enough to be far. Like, I just want to be away from it, but it's nice being
You can be there in a
just
day.
Drive there 4 hours, you know? And so I came up here to visit her for the first time and check it out. And, I think the whole trip kind of put a spell on me. Like the drive up, you only have cell service for about a total of like an hour and a half of the 4 hour drive, because you're just like going through redwoods and mountains and forests. Like, not that trip, but one of the trips up here, I actually saw like 3 bald eagles just out in the middle of nowhere out there. But on that first trip, I came up here and I just checked it out. I went to a few of the breweries, I got to go to Rita's. I had a Corona Rita on my first trip, Got to see Blue Lake, got to see the beach. And, one thing we all love about Humboldt is we can go to the beach and go hiking all in the same
day
hour.
Yeah.
It's like, it's great. And that's what I liked about Sonoma County, is that you were an hour from each.
Yeah.
But here you're like 10 minutes from each, you know? And so I was here for like 3 days total, or no, 2 days total. And, I got to go to a house party, got to meet some locals,
Kind of felt the Humboldt life for a little bit.
And, at that point I was like, all right, I think this
place is sweet.
This place is really cool. And what really did it for me was I went to the community forest and I sat on a bench, and I was just surrounded by ferns, a little creek trickling, look up and the sun's like, just glowing through the trees. I took a deep breath of that air, and I was just like, yeah,
sold.
This is it. I didn't know when I would do it. I didn't know how I'd do it, or, but, I just knew I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And so on my last night here, on that first visit, it was about midnight. I got a call from one of the animal managers at Safari West. She said, Dan, there's a fire heading towards the zoo. Can you get here, please? And I was like, yeah, I'm 4 hours away, but I'll be there. And that was the night of the Tubbs fire, which, if you don't know this, or if you don't know this, that fire
Who
started.
Who are you talking to, man? It's just you and me in the room.
Yeah, sorry.
Like, if you don't know this, you don't know
I
this.
feel a presence over here.
No, I don't know anything about the Tubbs fire. Sounds familiar.
It started in Calistoga and went over the mountain. Pretty much went around the zoo. And once it went down the mountain into Santa Rosa, it wiped out a few neighborhoods, a few thousand homes. It wiped out a Kmart, a few restaurants, a gas station. Like, it was, at the time, the most devastating.
Wasn't that only like 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, that was late 2017.
Yeah, okay.
But
I do remember
that. At its time, it was the most devastating wildfire in history.
Yep.
Or California history, I can't remember. But
California.
The only one that beat it, I think, was the Camp Fire in Paradise, where basically the whole town was, destroyed.
Decimated.
But so I got on the road about 10 minutes after getting that call, and I got caught in a fire in Willits, just in my car, in my Jeep. And, I was like 20-foot flames on both sides at one point, and I was just like, holy crap. And I made it through that, and I made it into Santa Rosa, which was like we couldn't get to the zoo because like it was roadblocked at about 4 a.m. when I was pulling into town. And long story short, we finally, a few hours later, a few of us staff made it up there to the zoo, and we had a fire engine on property, and we were able to, it took us a few days to get all the, fire, like there were fires spotting all over the place. And then like there were certain, like the big perimeter of the whole place would like flare up at times, like, it would go out, it wouldn't be burning, and maybe like an ember came in somewhere, but a few hours later there came a point when there were like 20 of us, just like zookeepers and maintenance and stuff, just like with shovels and rakes, just cutting fire line. And with the fire engine we had and like a water truck, we were fighting fire. And that was another big kick in the butt for me. That was the first time I had a taste of firefighting for about 2 years since,
Since that incident.
Since that incident, And so that was, factor number 2 of like, okay, I need to get out of here. I need to get back to what I love doing. I love animals. I love being here, and I still visit all the time. I still visit. Yeah. And but yeah. So in a few weeks after that fire, I just made the decision. It was like 4 a.m. I was gonna be driving back down to Santa Rosa to go to work. And I just like, nope, this is it. I need to do it now, So I texted my boss at 4 a.m. saying like, hey, I know I have to be at work, but, I need a few days to find a place in Humboldt because I'm going to be living here and consider this my 2 weeks. Thanks for understanding, And he was like, good luck, man. Like, I support it, He was cool. And
you landed up here? What?
I wound up here.
Did you find a job on Craigslist?
No. I applied at Toby and Jack's, and here we are.
How'd you hear about Toby and Jack's?
I didn't. I was actually a side gig I had from working at the zoo. I was a security guard for a concert venue. I work security for people. I got to work security for Too Short, Afro Man, Riff Raff, Black Dahlia Murder, like all kinds of cool artists and bands. But with that under my belt, I was like, maybe I could find a job up here doing security.
Yeah.
And I did. I, actually turned the application into Sidelines, and I got a call back a few days later from the current manager there, and he was like, hey, can you start tonight? And I was like, yeah. And so, I got a job and got that lined up and moved up here, was kind of living with my lady friend at the time, and it wasn't, it only took about a month for me to hear about, this fire program, and where you got to, it's called a resident program, where you get to live at the fire station, and it's a volunteer job. So you don't get paid, but you get paid with a room.
Yeah,
so,
amenities.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I took that, and I feel like me leading into that part was like so anticlimactic, but like I finally, here I am. I finally got back into the fire service. It all that time, everything was just happening so sudden. It's like, okay, I'm moving because I had wanted to move for like a year, and I just like came to that point where I was like, okay, that's it. Like, there's no more waiting. I need to do this now, know? And so I
then things came together pretty quickly.
And they did.
Shit,
and
here we go.
Yeah, and it felt really anticlimactic. Even, I appreciated it and, kind of settled down. I was like, wow, I did it a little later on, but everything was happening really fast for a while. And
And so now you're over at Blue Lake Fire, yeah?
Yeah, so I spent my time at that first apartment, and I was there for a year and a few months, and things just didn't work out.
Yeah, out at Samoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can edit that out because
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't. The first apartment didn't work out very well.
Okay.
Those who shall not be named.
Yeah. I
Kind
meant Eureka.
no, don't do that either. Yeah, so all you would hear from there would be a bleep. But anyways, yeah. So now.
You know I'm not editing shit out, right? It takes too much time. I just...
All right.
Is what it is, man.
It's like...
You're not going to get sued or
I didn't
anything.
want to trash talk. I didn't want to trash talk.
You didn't trash talk. You just said you're not there anymore. Now you're at Blue Lake.
Yep.
No problem.
It was a good experience.
Yeah.
And I went about my way.
You got what you needed. You got the connection to go to the next place. And...
That really is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I now I'm in Blue Lake. I went from living in a firehouse with 6 bedrooms to now with 2. And I'm the only person living there.
Yeah.
It's the same program. It's volunteer work. You get paid with a room. You have to, work a certain amount of days a month to pay the rent, but it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm. But when you go out on mission, you get paid.
Oh yeah, so when we get pulled out, like when pulled out, when like the state has its fires, like the big ones, like last year had the Camp Fire, the Tubbs Fire, the fires that are just like giant,
rampant.
Yeah. The state calls for aid, and each county or agency will send a strike team. So the strike team right now would be like Blue Lake would send an engine, Eureka would send an engine, Arcata would send an engine, Fortuna, a few other departments. So you have like a total of 6 engines, and we all meet and we go wherever they need us. And when you get pulled out there, you're getting paid by the hour, and you're getting paid well. And you're getting paid 24 hours around the clock. So, you get your foot in the door in the department, and you serve your volunteer time. And if you're fortunate enough to be put on a strike team, it's very rewarding. Like I did something yet last year where, we got to get paid. I think through the whole fire season, we made 30 days, and that was, I think $8,000,
Yeah.
And like it's just a fun time. Like it's always been the thing I've been passionate about, and I would do it for free.
Yeah.
But to be paid bank for it is
Right.
just so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
you trying to firefighting from here on out, that's the ultimate goal?
Yeah, I'm going to be applying for CAL FIRE next year. CAL FIRE, because the state has to pull so many, like, they call them local government agencies, those strike teams that get paid bank. The state does that as a last line of defense. So what CAL FIRE basically kind of like is doing is they're trying to hire more people, so they don't need as much help, so they can pay their because when we go out, we're getting paid more than their employees are getting.
Right.
Like, for the most part.
Yeah, they got to pay for the convenience.
Exactly. So, yeah. So, but I want to
get into CAL FIRE.
Go to CAL FIRE.
Yeah.
It's a real fire job. You cover the state's land, so it's a bunch of wildland area. CAL FIRE is pretty well known for being a wildland firefighting agency, but also they're fully equipped to do, structure fires, vehicle accidents, medical calls, and, that's everything I love to do, and everything I've like basically dedicated my life to train for, so yeah, CAL FIRE is the next step. It's next year. I'll be applying, probably do the academy around the same time, around this time next year. And
so do they have a similar pension plan, like you do 20 and you can retire, or
it's a seasonal job, where you work, I think, April through December. And you work 3 days on, 4 days off, I think. So, 72 hours.
But there's like a rank structure. Eventually, you could be like
Mhm.
the general or whatever position it's called, right?
Yeah, so
Captain or whatever.
the way the fire service is structured, it's like firefighter. And then with CAL FIRE, it's firefighter, engineer, captain, battalion chief, and then there's all kinds of different chiefs. Like,
Right.
but once you get above battalion chief, you're pretty much in an office. But like the battalion chief, like, will go to a scene and he'll be the one telling everyone what to do.
Right.
The captain under him is getting told by the battalion chief what to do, so the captain's telling
Implements
his
orders.
firefighters what to do. Or that's kind of the
Right,
general chain of command.
Yeah. So is that you want to be a battalion chief?
No,
That'd be cool.
I think
Chief Flores.
Nah.
Yeah.
Maybe one day. I've got too much energy pent up right now. Like,
Yeah.
I would
well,
love.
I mean, you're young. You do 10, 15 years in CAL FIRE. You
Yeah,
be a chief, no problem.
I know might get to that point, but I'd love to serve my time as a grunt. You know, just be bottom of the totem pole.
Well, you gotta earn the chief position.
Of course,
yeah, it's not gonna be given.
But I've always kind of like been okay with the idea of retiring. I know a few guys who have been with CAL FIRE 15 years and they're still at the bottom by choice because they like it.
Right.
Once you start
Just a different kind of work.
Yeah. Once you start promoting, the state can kind of do a little more with you. Like, oh, we need a captain down south. Oh, we need, there's just, they
pay you more, but they have a little bit more control.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas a grunt, you just
work.
slay the dragon,
Nice. That's cool, man. We're coming up on 45 right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well.
Oh shit.
So in my hope,
he brought me a present.
In my hope that Tyler, this becomes a, if this podcast continues, which I hope it does, I got him this.
I love the wrap.
It's going to be his 100th episode surprise.
Yeah.
For those of you who listen to podcasts, you know about these kinds of things, or, like in The Office when Jim gave Pam that note and you never find out what it said. It's that kind of thing right now. So 100th episode.
Yeah.
He'll be able to open that.
So now I got to hold onto a box for a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a couple years.
Or 100 days.
Yeah. I mean, you're my 5th guest now. So, I mean, people, it's random who's like just down, like, yeah, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Yeah. And then the way the structure, I mean, how'd it feel?
I liked it. I didn't really know what to expect. And, I just, I can talk about myself and tell my whole story in 5 minutes or in 8 hours, It's just
just how in depth you want to go.
I always do better when I don't plan.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really. I'll probably watch this and probably just like lay in bed in the middle of the night and be like, "Oh God, you fucking idiot! You fucking said that shit,"
Yeah.
But just whatever.
Yeah.
I'm me. I like to fight fire, but I like to drink and I like to party and I like death metal and I like just be you. Even if you don't know who you're gonna be or don't know where you're going, just
stay positive.
Do what makes you happy.
All right, Dan. Hey, thank you very much,
No
brother.
problem, man. Thanks for having me.
Hell yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.